A few months ago I made a video describing why I use 9-speed gears. When I say 9-speed, I actually mean 18-speed. That's a double chainring at the front and 9 gears at the rear. In a later video I went on to examine the gear range and ratios of my 2x 9-speed system compared to a 2x 11-speed system. I found that with a careful selection of components I could optimize my 9-speed so they actually had more useful ratios than an 11-speed. However, I've recently been thinking I could optimize an 11-speed system to give even more useful gears. If I'm going to look at gearing setups with 11-speed cassettes, then there are a couple of options I can look at. There's the so-called 1x with a single chain ring and the 2x option with a double chain ring. So I'll look at both options. Previously I showed tables that look like this. In the current tables I'll also show the percentage jump in the gearing between sprockets. I'm going to analyze the gearing for road riding and for light off-road use. I want to maximize the number of useful gears in the range from about 30 to 90 inches and try and limit the jumps between the gears. In my earlier videos I found that the Shimano GRX chain set was useful in giving me the gears that I wanted. So in order to keep things simple, I'll stick with Shimano GRX for these examples. Here I show a table for the 1x setup. I've selected a 40-tooth chain ring and a 34 down to 11-tooth cassette. This gives me the range that I'm looking for, from about 30 inches up to about 90 inches. So I get the gear range that I want. However, the jumps between the gears are actually quite large. All except one exceed my 8% limit. In the higher gears, we're talking about 13 to 17% jumps. Now let's look at the more traditional 2x setup. Here I've selected a 46-30 chain rings and a cassette that goes from 25 teeth down to a 12. Gives me a low gear of 32 inches and a top gear of 104 inches. This combination gives 13 discrete gear ratios as opposed to 10 on the 1x system. The good news is that the jumps between the ratios are all 8% or less, except in the lower gears. This I don't mind too much, as in the lower gears larger jumps are often quite useful. In that last example, the high gears exceeded what I needed, and therefore there's room for further optimization. So I looked for alternative cassettes, and there's a cassette that goes from 28 teeth down to 14 teeth. Putting these into the table, we can see that we have a gear range that's still around about the 30 inches at the bottom end and just under 90 inches at the top end. Again, most of the jumps between the gears are 8% or less, except at the low end where the jumps are slightly larger. In this example, I actually have 15 discrete useful gears, whereas in the previous example, we had just 13 discrete gears. So based on my criteria, this looks like an improvement. In analysing these gearing systems, I've tried to be realistic about what I want and need in terms of gear range and the spacing of the gears. For general riding, 30 inches was a useful low gear. Being realistic, I can't push an 11 or 12 tooth sprocket, and I rarely use a 13 tooth. I do like relatively small jumps between the gears. I do hate it when I feel that one gear is too low and the next one is too high. So as well as choosing a realistic gear range, I also optimize so that the jumps in the gears weren't too large. For me, this rules out the 1x system, as those jumps are much too large, although for you it might be different. So I think I'll stick with the 2x system. This can give me the gear range that I want, as well as limiting the size of the jumps between gears. This begs the question, is it worth me changing from my 9-speed system to 11-speed? I don't think it would be worth it if I had to buy a whole new group set. The benefits aren't that great. However, I may look at some of the more affordable systems coming from Chinese brands. In order to see where this goes, why not subscribe and click on the bell icon to get notification.